File of the Doobie Brothers when 2020 continues.
I think it's possible to sell millions of records of rock music, make tens of millions of dollars, and still be relatively unknown. There's a group that has done that, and it doesn't seem to bother them a bit. Some of you may have heard of the Doobie Brothers, but almost all of you have heard their music. Here with a report on the remarkable Doobie Brothers is Geraldo Rivera.
Thank you. In the fickle roller coaster world of rock and roll, an artist or a group generally appears on center stage for one or two hit records, but then gets pushed aside by the next newest fad or style that comes along. Well, for 10 years, the Doobie Brothers have managed to remain fresh and out front. They've had more than a dozen hit records, all done in a constantly evolving musical style. The funny thing about them, though, is how relatively few people can name the group that performs the familiar music. The Doobie Brothers are 10 years old, but despite the fact that they've sold over 30 million records, until fairly recently, they were one of the best-kept secrets in rock and roll, attracting a lot less attention than other groups that were far less successful. Then a funny thing happened on the way to this year's Grammy Awards.
Best pop vocal performance, duo or group, the Doobie Brothers, Minute by Minute. Best arrangement, accompanying vocalists, What a Fool Believes, Michael McDonald, arranger.
The song of the year is...
Woo! What a Fool Believes!
And the record of the year is... I don't know which one of those it is.
The Doobie Brothers!
What a fool!
I think the band as a whole was surprised by the Grammys. Up until the last couple of years, we've been thought of more as a subculture group, hard rock band. And just in the last couple of years, we've been more accepted, I think, by the music business establishment.
One big reason for the Doobies' recent move into the media mainstream is the fan magazine appeal of the group's current lead singer and songwriter, Michael McDonald. You, as an individual, are attracting a lot of attention now. How are you dealing with that new kind of celebrity status?
I'd be a liar to say that I don't thrive on it as much as anyone else. You know, it's part of this business. It's why I'm in this business, why I came to this town to begin with. To hopefully someday write a hit song and get the recognition that comes with that.
This song, What a Fool Believes, is on the group's Minute by Minute album. Last year, when the rest of the music business was suffering through its worst recession in a decade, the album was selling almost 4 million copies. The smooth, polished sound has become the Doobies' musical trademark, but it wasn't always that way.
Straight-ahead rock and roll. We rocked real hard all the time and lived real hard and drank real hard, and it was pretty rough.
This is the last night of a long tour for us, a tour we started sometime around June, July, something like that.
The Doobie Brothers are not related. Actually, they're a rock and roll corporation. And over the last 10 years, the corporation has stayed in existence, but the members have been constantly changing. There have been a total of 12 brothers over the past decade, and ex-long-hair Patrick Simmons is the only original still playing with the band. Currently the owner of an antique motorcycle shop in Santa Cruz, Patrick was there when the group picked its unusual name.
Gosh, I don't know if I can say this on television, but we were really into rolling certain kinds of herbs and smoking them. And in the early 70s, late 60s, there was a term called the doobie. And you rolled that up and you smoked it, and we used to do that quite often. We smoked a lot of those doobies, and still do occasionally.
The Doobie Brothers traced their roots to the foothills of the Santa Cruz Mountains in Northern California. Simmons and the others favored living the biker lifestyle and playing thumping, straight-ahead rock and roll music. The group really got its start in a raunchy dance club in the hills called the Chateau Liberté. They were earning $60 a night back then and living basically on brown rice and food stamps.
This is where the Hells Angels used to set up right here and tweet girls on the bottom as they'd come through the door. This is the entrance here. This was where we had our first album cover on the Doobie Brothers' very first album. We were all sitting here.
Forgettable, even amateur, the record went no place, but it was just a question of growing pains. Gentle Ted Templeman was and still is the group's producer.
I couldn't really, I was scared to death. I walked around. When we were doing the first album, you have these great big ham-fisted guys with a big thing of whiskey there. You know, I was totally intimidated by these guys sitting around watching me make a record. I was doing a terrible job anyway. It was the first record I'd ever made. It was a total flop.
We made the first album, which didn't do anything. And then I was just sitting around my bedroom one night, and I was just, you know, playing around the guitar like, you know, playing with the guitar. And I came up with this thing like this. And I called my producer up, and I said, I got a song here, and I know it's a single. So we cut it, and it was. Don't you feel it growing day by day? To the people.
Even in the early years, when the group was still essentially an underground phenomenon, their songs, at least, were well known. Hard-living, hard-driving Tommy Johnston was the Doobies' first frontman until he crashed and burned in rock's fast lane.
What made you sick? How did it happen? I got an ulcer. I'd say it was brought on by a combination of things. Being on the road a hell of a lot. Coming home for very short periods of time, to which it was hard to relate to home. And then either in the studio or back on the road. And drugs, hotel trashings, and crazy lifestyle, basically.
Johnston's guitar and singing style were so much a part of the Doobies' early musical identity that the experts gave the group little chance of surviving his departure. But then the brothers sent for Michael McDonald, the soft-spoken son of a St. Louis bus driver. McDonald was formerly a member of another popular rock group called Steely Dan, but he had never reached his singing or songwriting potential until joining the Doobies. Now the McDonald sound is one of the most important influences in popular music. Incorporating elements of jazz and blues, even gospel in his music, He wants to write movie scores or even a Broadway musical.
I think for right now, the Doobie Brothers affords me a great opportunity to be what all I would hope to be as a songwriter, musician, and the opportunity to work with some really wonderful people, you know.
While Mike is obviously still close to the group that propelled him into the spotlight, he's also forming some unusual musical partnerships outside the Doobie Brothers. He's producing records for a new artist named Amy Holland, for example, and he's writing songs with Carol Bayer Sager. Carol has written a long string of hits on her own, including lyrics for the current Broadway musical, They're Playing Our Song. Mike is also collaborating with people like Kenny Loggins, Carly Simon, and Chris Cross. Another songwriting partner is Burt Bacharach.
I can't let this feeling in my heart no more.
Perhaps it's because this group has gone through so many ups and downs during its tenure, but they sincerely seem unconcerned about McDonald's forays into other areas of music. In fact, they seem happy the band is still together at all. Last year, for example, soon after completing the best-selling Minute by Minute album, the Doobies suffered through one of their periodic traumas. They actually broke up for a time. 2 members dropped out permanently, and the group was only resuscitated when 3 new players were added.
Seems like the band keeps going through changes, and we got some new faces to introduce to you right now. So, let's see.
The new members are John McPhee, lead guitar, Chet McCracken on drums, and Cornelius Bumpus on sax and keyboard. The 4 surviving members are McDonald, Simmons, drummer Keith Knutson, and bass player Tyran Porter. In cultural terms, the Doobies are fairly adventurous for a rock and roll band. They've rejected the rock and roll stereotype that favors the strong, silent approach to life. For instance, the Doobies have ventured into the world of television situation comedy.
The Doobie Brothers. Were you a half-brother?
No, we're not really related.
They've been on talk shows, they even seem sincerely civic-minded, annually performing a benefit for Stanford's Children's Hospital. But don't feel too sorry for this group of hard-working boys. They still manage to find plenty of time for fun. On Memorial Day weekend, the brothers past and present, the sisters, and all the little Doobie children got together at manager Bruce Cohen's ranch in Northern California. It's their annual celebration of past and future good times. It is surprising in the almost always neurotic world of rock and roll that these people really do seem to like each other.
Okay, let's put it down.
From $60 a night concerts played for the Hells Angels, this group of musical gypsies has grown until now they're universally regarded as a significant voice in popular music.
I'm just another head on your pillow. If only just tonight, girl. Let me hear you lie just a little. Tell me I'm the only man.
Recorded a couple of weeks ago, this Mike McDonald composition will be the centerpiece of the group's next album.
I need to believe that it's you.
So even after 10 years of turbulence, lots of people are still listening to the Doobie Brothers music.
I need to believe that it's you. Just 1 minute
It's a fair bet that the Doobie Brothers have finally...